If you have someone in your life that you like to play video games with, you're probably well aware of the constant struggle to find games that you can actually play together. It's especially difficult to find games that feature local or couch co-op. Nintendo seems empathetic to this struggle though, because many of their games feature some sort of option for couch co-op play. Sometimes this added on co-op option is a hit, and sometimes it's a miss, but because my wife and I are always perpetually low on games to play together, we always give these games a shot. And that brings us to Nintendo's newest game that features an optional co-op mode, Kirby and the Forgotten Land. Now going into this game, I think that everyone, my wife and I included, thought that this game might be really similar to Super Mario Odyssey. One, because it's a 3D platformer, but mainly because it features this new mouthful mode, which is very similar to the capture mechanic in Odyssey. And Odyssey had a decent, although not perfect, co-op mode. So we were actually pretty hopeful and excited about trying out this new Kirby game together. Now, did the game live up to our expectations? Is it worth buying with the intent of trying to play it with someone else? Well, first of all, you should know that Kirby and the Forgotten Land isn't as similar to Mario Odyssey as we had first expected. But the game is extremely similar to another Mario game, and that's Super Mario 3D World from the Wii U. The levels in this Kirby game are linear and have a clear beginning and end. It's a 3D game, but its mechanics and gameplay loop are taken directly from Kirby's 2D roots. So it's a lot like 3D World, but that really wasn't a big problem for us, because although 3D World isn't as good of a game as Odyssey in general, it does have a better and more balanced co-op experience than Odyssey. Also, just in general, some of our favorite co-op games are level-based 3D platformers, so this Kirby game really does tick a lot of the boxes. Once you get into the game, the first thing you're probably going to notice is that the visuals are really good, and not just in the "it looks good for the Switch" kind of way. The game just looks good, period, especially the very beginning of each level. Some of the openings are just gorgeous. But a great game fancy graphics do not make. Luckily, this game has some new mechanics that help to add some much needed life to the Kirby formula. Most obviously is the new mouthful mode, where Kirby inhales an object and instead of being able to swallow it completely, he forms to the shape of the object, giving him certain properties based on what object he inhaled. It's basically the Cappy capture feature from Odyssey, but grosser. But this new mechanic really does help add a sense of freshness to a game that would otherwise just be a 3D reimagining of the same old Kirby formula. Now you probably expect this, but like other Kirby games, Forgotten Land is pretty easy, but it's not like it's completely void of challenge. Some of the boss fights actually take a little bit of practice and skill to master. And that's even considering the fact that I think we had an even easier time than normal playing this game because we played it in co-op, and we always had 2 players there to constantly dish out damage. But still, there was some challenge. But still, you want to keep in mind that this game probably is easier in co-op mode than it is if you played it solo. But just because it's easy, that doesn't mean that it's not fun. This genre is great for co-op play. And just like other level-based 3D platformers, you may find that it's even more fun when you're sharing the experience with someone else. It's a very casual game, and we've personally found that for whatever reason, casual games can just be more entertaining to play co-op than by yourself. Now, unfortunately, Kirby and the Forgotten Land does have one big flaw when it comes to its co-op mode, and that's the lack of a balanced experience between the 2 players. Player 1 gets to play as Kirby, who plays and controls exactly like you probably expect. Like always, Kirby can absorb enemies and copy their abilities. That means that player 1 will not only get to try out all these different attacks, but they also get to use these powers to solve ability-specific puzzles. Player 2 plays as Bandana Waddle Dee, who moves and controls pretty similar to Kirby, but who doesn't have the copy ability. That means that whoever's playing as Bandana Waddle Dee will have to stick with the same stock moveset throughout the entire game. Now, player 2's moves are fun and well fleshed out, but they feel stale pretty quickly when compared to Kirby's ever-changing moveset. And like I mentioned earlier, one of the coolest new mechanics of this game is mouthful mode, but unfortunately, that's something you'll only get to experience if you play as Kirby. Sorry, player 2, no inhaling vending machines for you. And it really is kind of a bummer too, because there are sometimes these decently long stretches and levels where player 2 just has to sit there and do nothing because Kirby's busy being a car or something. But mouthful mode isn't even the worst offender. There's these treasure road levels where you're tasked to complete a challenge within a certain time limit in order to earn rare stones. Now, it's technically optional, but they're required if you want to upgrade any of Kirby's abilities throughout the game. And you guessed it, player 2 just has to sit there and watch player 1 complete these challenges. And the worst part about it is that these challenges are actually really fun, but the fun is ruined in co-op because you can't share the experience. So to combat all this unevenness, Catherine and I just swapped controllers every level so that we'd both get time playing as Kirby. That worked, and it's a solution, but eventually we got tired of swapping and we ended up just sticking with our respective controllers and characters without swapping. If you've played any other Nintendo games in co-op mode, you're probably used to this uneven experience. It's kind of become their thing. I think they just kind of assume that player 2 is going to be a younger sibling or something. It's not a huge deal, but I do wish this game had a more even experience in co-op. But who knows, maybe the co-op mode is perfect as is for most people. What I do know is that Kirby and the Forgotten Land is a genuinely fun and high quality game that I think is really well suited for co-op play. It's just not perfect. However, if you're like us and you're always looking for couch co-op games to play, I would add this one to your list. There's really not that many new games coming out with the option for local co-op, so although it's not perfectly balanced, this could very well end up being the best couch co-op game we see in 2022. If you enjoyed this review or you found it helpful, make sure to throw us a like and subscribe to us here on Gaming Gig. And if you're looking for more reviews, why not check out this one I did on one of the newest PS5 exclusives, Ghostwire Tokyo. Till next time, guys.